never get home until about 10:30 at night. But it means I don't go to bed till after midnight. But that aside, sleeping very, very soundly actually. yeah. So
you're not too worried and stressed out.
No, it's not. It's in fact the only things that make me not sleep are going to bed thinking, I've great ideas and things we can do. So it's more of that stimulation rather than worry about the potential.
Yeah. Go back to December. You were about to give a presentation to the Fremantle Society, which was rather symbolic. How did that go?
Actually, it was a very robust discussion. I mean, I gave a very blunt message about what my plans for Fremantle were. It's not an anti-heritage argument at all. It's simply saying, in fact, it's one that says we protect our existing heritage, but we utilise other sites to build a new scale for Fremantle that's not represented, and actually, in the longer term, will better support the old heritage part of the city. I find that argument compelling. I think there are small, hardcore members of the Fremantle Society who see that anything that's bigger than existing buildings imposes on, diminishes that heritage of the city. But it's not an argument I agree with. I think ultimately you end up with, you actually ultimately enhance the heritage of the city centre by increasing the jobs, the amount of people, and ultimately the vibrancy of the regional centre.
But that does require new building, change, development, progress, all of the things that have been hard to do in Fremantle for some time.
The other thing which we have had since then is some consultations on the East End project. This week the report on those consultations was handed down, and last night we had our first big informal council meeting about how we progress the East End project. And that was really interesting because, of course, lots of people who came to that were just opposed to change because their views are going to be interrupted, and there will be local amenity impacts which aren't good for a very small amount of people, even though the benefit to the overall city is clearly going to be huge. And already still dealing with those tensions. It's not easy for councillors because you don't get rung up by the general person who thinks it's in their overall benefit to have this happen. You get rung up by the person whose views of the harbour are going to be taken away.
So that is the hard politics of sustainability. You are actually having to do something whose benefit will be seen significantly further down the track.
That's right, and spread across a larger number of people. And but unfortunately, the very small minority of people who feel they won't benefit, and I even think many of those will, because what they're going to have on their doorstep is actually a really vibrant, great area, which they've got car yards.
So you will be using this as an educational opportunity as well as the development in itself. You do seize every opportunity to talk it through with everybody so that you can get as many as possible to come with you.
That's going to be for me, that's going to be key to doing it, because if what will trip it up is just this sense of distrust and this sense of the people don't know what's happening, and all those kind of that fear mongering that's kind of connected with that. And I think if you actually explain to people step by step, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and this is why we're making these choices, then your chances of actually progressing the project are going to be much better.
But in the end, you won't have everyone won over, and there will need to be some hard decisions. And
that is the crux of it. This is not a consensus decision. I mean, and in fact, I'm actually fearful that council will go too far down that route of trying to please everybody and end up with a very mediocre outcome that ultimately sees nothing happen. Well, one of the things that I've done in the last month is give up the mayor gets a mayoral car bay, which is great. It's the best car bay in the city and all those kind of things. But I ride my bike, and I just realised it was sitting there empty. It was just, and I have no need to drive my car into Freo. So I thought this is a great opportunity to not only to auction it off and give the money to St Pat's, but also to make a point that that I don't think driving into the city into the city every day is sustainable or the best way of getting around, and we are a different kind of city. So it was a real win-win for me in the sense of I got to help out St Pat's whilst also making a statement about sustainability in Fremantle. So
It interests me, Is your bike salary packageable?
But this is actually
the structural things that mean that you can get a car and a car park space and all of these things that are set.
Yeah.
They're not
No,
the alternatives, are they?
No, and that's in fact, this is one of the things the organisation's really struggling with. We've got a sustainability officer, and I've said all City of Fremantle employees get a free car park.
Is that right?
And I've said this is crazy. I mean, do they get free public transport? No. So what we've come up with, and we're trying to get the CEO to sign off on it, is that they can trade in their free car park for cash or a public transport pass. It actually benefits the city economically because our car parking is at capacity. So we've got employees filling up our capacity car parking. And when they could just get the train. It's not like we're very well serviced by public transport. So we actually are trying to take away some of those institutional habits that we've created that actually make people drive cars and not get around another way. So so that's going to be very interesting to see whether the CEO's got is willing to sign off on that.
Well, that means they can improve their livability whilst reducing their footprint, which
exactly.
is what sustainability is all about.
It's been one of the twists of being mayor is that I found myself doing things that I didn't think I would do, and that's been one of them. It's been a lot of time trying to think about creative ways of tackling what's clearly a growing situation and one that's not working for anybody. And it is really challenging, and it primarily, but not solely, it's not solely an Indigenous issue, because it is a bit mixed, but it's certainly predominantly so. It's predominantly people who, deeply socially disadvantaged, and almost all have either alcohol issues, glue sniffing issues, or other drug problems. In fact, I had a long meeting with the police and the Noongar Patrol and other service providers yesterday about trying to come up with a coordinated response that actually cracks down really hard on street drinking and the stuff that's leading to violence, and it is violence on a regular basis. But actually also then finds a way of getting those people into the levels of the social support they need. And it's going to be a long, hard struggle, I think, but it's something, it's got to be done. And because, again, it all fits together. You've got retailers who have said to me, if this keeps going, we're leaving because our customers are too scared to be here. Yeah, and it is a combination of, again, the economic, the social justice, and the other social issues that are absolutely tied into that.
Mm. And you can't solve it by just putting it somewhere else, because one of the key reasons that they come here is that the women want to be in a public space so they don't get beaten up.
It's safe. It's a safe spot to express the problems. Yep, that's right.
But no magic solutions in this one, eh?
No. Interesting, before the election he came to Fremantle and gave a talk at the yacht club, and he basically said, look, I don't know what you're doing, where you're going, you're just languishing, kind of let me know when you actually want to realise your potential and I'll be there to help, was kind of the line that he gave. And I think, so what I want this talk to be to say, there's a clear mandate that Fremantle does want to develop and grow as a city, but we want to do it in a particular way. We want to be a green city, and we want to grow our retail base, we want to grow our jobs base and have more people, and we need state government support in actually heading down that direction. Mm. And hopefully him getting that message and feeling inspired about actually putting state government resources into that.
If Colin Barnett can begin to understand that would be very important for Fremantle.
Mm.
So you are going to stand up and lecture the Premier in front of 50 people.
Inspire is what I'm hoping, yeah. Yes.
This is an extraordinary opportunity. How did it happen?
Bruce Moriarty, who's on the campaign, has a personal relationship with the Premier, and the Premier's always been very supportive of Give Me Shelter, and this is, part of the proceeds from this event will go to Give Me Shelter. So the Premier agreed last year to come down for the event for Give Me Shelter, and the timing is great. We thought, well, this is a good opportunity for him to understand where thinking is in Fremantle, and for him to also share his ideas about that. And it is an interesting conversation between, I guess someone who's far more green and left than the Premier would be, but actually realising we have a lot in common, and that the sustainability agenda is actually not in any way opposed to that of the Liberal Party.
Yeah, and needs to be taken on board, no matter what the political perspective. There are ways into that, and crossing the boundaries is as much the sustainability agenda as anything else. So what you're doing is not just during the premiere, it's actually symbolically showing that everybody can be part of this agenda.
First time I've been given flowers. My wife does deserve it because we've got a little holiday house.